Everyday Superpower, where we talk body language, relationships, game, everything in between, alright? This one's about relationships, it's about women, and it's about the way you perceive them. It's about dating communities, red pill communities, the manosphere, and everything in between, and it's an opinion different to the social norm, or at least an opinion that shares a difference to the more marketable influences of such, the more vocal and popular creators who may very well be in position for particular reasons other than the value of the information they provide, okay? But that's a story for another time. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to run down, there's a particular term for this. This is called red pill rage, right? And let me tell you what that is. That is when somebody, a young man, starts getting involved into educating oneself about the biological reality of attraction, about what women want and what women don't want in particular. They get a little bit flustered, a little bit hot under the collar, because they acknowledge that everything they have been taught and the naivety they once operated under had been a lie, and where they actually stand in the marketplace, or so they've been told, is a lot lesser than as to which they initially perceived themselves, alright? Because generally we don't get taught this theoretic stuff. We just sort of play it by ear and hope for the best, and if a woman comes into our life, she comes into our life, and all of the information aside from that tends to come from other people who don't really know nothing anyway and operate on their own, self-serving principles, completely blind to the reality as to whether their partner does or does not actually respect them. So some people get flustered, annoyed, pick up the rational male, the game or whatever, and look into hypergamy, look into the idea of a woman being more attracted to a man with resources for whichever purpose. I mean, that does not put him in a position above and beyond you. It just means that he might get first pick to fuck it up, you know what I mean, when it turns out that he's actually a soft ass, repulsive man who's going to get taken for everything he's worth by this woman. You know, you don't want to be in that relationship, so power to you. You don't have to perceive everything and what other men have as your lack. It's obviously not the case. But when the smoke clears and all of that settles, I want you to approach this game from a position of love, from a position of gratitude that you are learning things that other people don't learn, and you are seeing things that other people, don't see. And I guess in a way it is, parallel to conspiracy theorists, or for a better term, critical thinkers, individuals who, take the less taken route and find truth in matters the majority are blinded or manipulated not to see, and in doing so you find a lot of darkness, a lot of evil in the world. You find a hell on earth per se. And alike the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were punished from taking the fruit and eating from the fruit of the tree of knowledge, right? So as you garner knowledge, as you garner understanding, as you start to perceive things from a different perspective, it does give you power. It gives you space to maneuver. It gives you an understanding as to where you can actually live your life in an enlightened sense, as opposed to chasing the carrot on a stick those in the know are placing before you and the rest of civilization. You don't have to opt into that game anymore. So there is a crossover value between that world and the world of attraction and the biological mechanics between man and women, because there's an ever progressive attempt to disguise and mislead man and woman into believing we are this, that, and everything we're not, confusing the men to be women and the women to be men, and breaking down the traditional family, saying that's completely fine, and single parent households are okay, acceptable, and I come from a single parent household, so I don't say this to be to cast judgment. It's not optimal. It's not optimal, and it's promoted, accepted, and completely fine. The idea that a woman can keep her children away from the father, and no one says the the detriment, the psychological detriment of doing so without having both the masculine and the feminine principle involved in the plasticity of that child's brain during the development process. It's incredibly destructive. The idea that the traditional value is now deemed as outdated, such as when normalcy has been outdated. When has normalcy ever been outdated? But we're in such a state that we look at blue as red and red as blue, and it's an ever-progressing attempt to destroy the intelligence and have us not believe what we see and not believe what we hear, such as Orwell said and so forth. And when you take the glasses off and you see things as they are once again, and you find the traditional merit in our existence, in our relationships, in our transactional communications, and you make sense of that, it's incredibly empowering, but also incredibly, weakening. One moment, pal. I got food coming. So people find this information. It gives them an acknowledgement of how small they are in relation to the people who are someone. They've been curious as to why they aren't very good with women, how they can be better with women, and opposed to just pushing them along and giving them tips on to how to be better, they've found a mirror that reflects how small they truly are, in the eyes of the value of this sexual marketplace. And now, what's comforting in this state of discomfort is to find other like-minded individuals. And these like-minded individuals are content creators who are supposedly very good with women, although surprisingly always end up being alone and single, which is odd, right? And these content creators showcase, even though they're supposedly really good with women, a sharp tongue towards the woman, a disdain towards the woman, such as representing the crowd of people they attract who want to get better with women, yet find this echo chamber as to which only re-amplifies the idea that women are terrible beings. They're not, they're just different to us. We are acting like the woman who says all men are bad because they've had a bad run-in with a couple of men and now they paint us under the same brush. We know how ignorant that is. That's genuinely not the case. And the thing is, when you pedestalize women who pursue resource, women who have taught to apply this mask of fake eyelashes and are so insecure to the extent where they get the cosmetic surgery done, and you elevate and position these women to speak on these platforms in order to re-emphasize the way these disenfranchised men feel about women, it just creates a stronger distance, a stronger repulsion within this attraction process. So these men, if not you, have gone out to find important information on how to be better with women, how to understand women, how to understand yourself. And you've just been given content from the leading content creators, right? It raises question as to why these people are put at the forefront, right? You get your tinfoil hat and you tell me that, and have a look at, the backgrounds of these people, right? No comment needed. And you find that it just re-emphasizes and highlights a negative stigma on the feminine, but you have the feminine inside of you. Your emotional reaction to this is feminine, right? When you were born, before you grew a masculine genitalia, you were essentially feminine of gender prior to your development into the masculine, right? You are as feminine as can be when you involve yourself within that space. The anima, right, as Carl Jung would say. In the yin and yang, there's two dots in each half, representing the inner masculine and the inner feminine that reside in both places. It's a principle of polarity, it's duality. And when you learn to accept that and understand that, you can become free in your whole, right? Right. I'll be back with you in 1 second, but to just leave it on this one, you need to approach this from a position of love, and you need to look at women as somebody you love and somebody you love to learn about. And this scientific experiment per se, to educate oneself on the reality of human being and how we communicate and how we differentiate, because then as you get better with that, you start to learn the game, you start to learn how to enjoy passing her tests, you naturally start to learn and enjoy and embrace the positive attention and the positive feedback you get, because that positive feedback from the feminine is a reflection of your positivity expressed in your masculine. You are now finally becoming the man you wanted to be and the man they tell you you should be, whilst force feeding you any other way to not be that masculine. They just tell you what a man should be, but by the way, the women hate you and the women are terrible and the women will cheat on you and every woman cheats, blah 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 blah. There's particular principles and boundaries as to where you can rationalize anything, right? But you shouldn't look at the game as such, because then you're going to be by yourself. And the thing is, if you hate women so much, then who do you love? Men. Getting a phone call, hold on. So let me continue, yeah? You need to learn to love the women, not hate them because of who they are. If you crave to be with a woman, if you're not very lucky, if you want to be more successful with women, if you just want to be able to understand, don't look at their needs and wants as a reflection of your lack and allow that to harm you and hurt your frail ego and have these people tell you that's the way it is and profit and monetize off of this fear porn they're selling you. Instead think, you know what? I'm going to keep on pushing, and when you get your first positive responses from these women, when you start setting up dates, when you start building some degree of a system, because like for example, I was a little abnormal when I first started calling on a regular. Prior to going on a date, I would set up a phone call and I would speak to them on the phone, and I'd get good at speaking to women on the phone via the phone calls to the point where, you know, without being crass, you learn the ways of the words, and you learn how to establish an undercurrent of sensuality, and you learn how to stimulate the fascination and the imagination, and you start to think, oh crap, it's all starting to come together, it's all starting to work. I just went and picked up food. I didn't spend a penny on that food. That penny was from someone else. That pizza, those pennies that were invested into that pizza was from somebody else. Yeah, you establish a game, people start to love you, people start to give shit to you, people start to want to garner your attention and your time and your effort because it's valuable to them. And you can't do that successfully without loving the game, without giving love to the game. You can't be a great guitar player without loving playing guitar. You can't be a great artist without loving the craft, loving the problems that come your way. Oh, I need to start using this brush, but I don't know how to use this brush. Oh my God, I keep breaking this brush. Oh my God, it doesn't apply the paint in the same way. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. But I know I need to learn how to utilize this. And that learning process is what makes me better at what I do and allows me to become the man I always wanted to be. The man that other men want to be. The man that women love. I've put myself through the trial and tribulation and I've made something of myself. Any single business, any single growth development across the entire flipping planet, yeah? The moment you invest a little bit of time and go through a little bit of friction, you're already past the majority of people across the world since the dawn of time. Because all of these men are weak. All of these men give up. All these men are self-serving to the point where they can't look at themselves clearly in the mirror and accept themselves for who they are. And in doing so, this red pill rage, this projection of self-hate upon the woman, I hate you. When the reality is, no, you should love them because they are a reflection of you. Then you start to establish a fantastic foundation in this game. That's when you start to become successful. That's when you start to engage with women comfortably, confidently, and on an engaging basis. You'll type in now, how to speak to women, and you'll have this bullshit. Like what is it? Men going their own way, where these men are just saying, oh yeah, we don't need women, by the way. What? Well, that's Darwinism in action. Don't ever be with a woman ever. Just invest in yourself. Be this strong, independent man. And just die. With no offspring, no nothing. If that's what suits you. Because you're so disgusted by the women. I think there's something deep-seated in there you need to acknowledge if that's the way you're looking at things. If you feel a bit resentful. If you have some degree of disdain over the idea of what a woman wants. Because it doesn't reflect your want. And it becomes this non-congruent disconnect. There comes this mismatch in translation. You're going to have to learn the language. And you're going to have to love learning the language. And then when you start passing her tests and she treats you appropriately, when you start garnering her respect and she starts treating you properly, and then men start elevating you because they see you are somebody who they admire. And that applies across anything. Your business, your work life, your family life. Because we are all around people, and where we are based and where we stand in the pecking order and how we are perceived is how we engage and how we are positioned and how we maneuver in the social realm. So do you think you can just hate half of the people because they don't treat you the way you want to be treated? And there's a reason why they don't treat you the way you don't want to be treated. And there is a reflection of that hate you express that bounces back to you. That came from your own self-image anyway. I hate myself so much, but I can't accept this, so I blame you. And we see this across the world over, no matter what the opposition is. Approach this game with love. Approach her with love. I'm fascinated genuinely on how you operate, because I will never have the mind you have. I will never have the perspective you have. I only have these points and these ideas and these references. And I want to find out if it's true. And I want to meet you halfway. And when you meet her halfway, what happens? You meet halfway. And you connect. And you come together as man and woman. Don't listen to the BS. If anybody hates women, question that. I'm signing out, people. One love. Goodbye.